Hey everyone, it's Thotme again, and what I'd like to talk to you about today is emotions. Lots of emotions going on out there with all the craziness that we have going around us. So let's just talk about some of those emotions for a little bit. Um, one one thing that I'd like to express is that we have two kinds of different emotions, and then not talking about depression or fear and joy and all that sort of thing. I'm talking about labeling them a little bit and saying one kind of emotion is what's known as an ego emotion, which is known as also an emotional attachment. The other emotion would be known more as a heartfelt emotion. The ego emotion is more like an attachment, and we learn through our childhood to emotionally attach ourselves to situations that we see around us on a consistent basis. So as you continue to experience things around you, you begin to form emotions that come with them. So, for instance, if you lived in an abusive home and you were, you were hit occasionally, or you had a lot of mental situations, abuse thrown at you, and then after this would happen, somebody would say, "But you know, I love you. You know I would never harm you, and yet you've been hit or you've been mentally abused." If this keeps happening on a consistent basis, you start recognizing for yourself that love equals abuse. That I guess love is being hit or love is being mentally abused. And so there's a feeling that comes from that. Of course, there might be fear, tension, stress. Um, You might get excited when you get hit. You might have anxiety that it's about to happen, frustration that it did happen. So there's kind of a lot of emotions that seem to circle around what's going on. And it becomes what we know as an attachment because it happens so much, it becomes almost an habitual thing that continues to happen. And because you're attaching certain emotions to the situations, well, you end up having emotional attachments. And that's more from the mind. It's not from the heart, it's more from the mind. So the mind continually develops this attachment of emotion by looking at certain triggers in certain situations. So that attachment lasts for a long time. You might say for the rest of your life if you don't do some deep work to finally dissolve or neutralize what we know as emotional attachments. So those are emotional, ego emotional attachments that come from the mind because what you see, what you touch, what you hear, what you sense ends up to be something that's coordinated with the mind, and there ends up to be a deep emotional, dramatic situation that continues to develop over time. It can be soft, it could be hard, but it's still an emotional attachment because that's how you see life. Heartfelt emotion is quite different. So, in a heartfelt emotion, what happens is you feel something in the moment. Feel something in the moment. There isn't this sense of it's going to last forever. It could last a little while, but it's more emotions of the moment, which means that I might have a sadness of looking at something outside of me, and there was a sadness to it, and I'm with that sadness in that moment, but it kind of filters away very quickly to where I'm in a neutralized state once again. There's no attachment to it. There is no, like, I carry that sadness for days on end, which is an attachment. So there's a huge difference between an emotional attachment, and which is an ego attachment of emotion, and a heartfelt emotion. Now, one of the issues that we all have, every one of us, is that we grow up with these emotional attachments and we don't realize that they're driving us to such a great degree. So there's a lot of deep work that has to take place from that. But with all the emotions that are going on around right now, I just want to specifically look at two. I want to look at fear and judgment, and then I want to look at humility and compassion. Fear, pretty obvious what's going on. Lots of fear surrounding it by confusion, chaos, and so on. And fear and judgment are what are with us in a very low frequency vibration. If we go to some experts who have done a lot of work in these fields, we find out, especially if you know of Dr. Emoto. Dr. Emoto did experiments with drops of water where he would shoot frequencies, vibrations into these drops of water to see what they would look like under a microscope when he would do them. So you can imagine that when fear at a certain vibration, which was a low vibration, was sent in a drop of water, under the microscope, it looked very, very ugly, very, very disoriented, unbalanced. The same with judgment. When you would judge something, if you put judgment into that drop of water, that frequency, same result, very disoriented, very unbalanced. Then he would go to the far other side and would place humility that had a very high frequency into the drop of water. And looking at it on the microscope, all of a sudden, lo and behold, it was incredibly beautiful, sacred geometric patterns that were just phenomenal to look at. The highest frequency that we know of is compassion. And that sense of compassion was then shot into the water, and the same result happened. It was this incredible sacred geometric patterns that were being shown under the microscope. Now, let me take a step back and say, understand that we are 80 to 90% water in our bodies. 80 to 90% water. So imagine if you allow the frequencies that are outside of you to come into your system, into your physical system. We do this on a daily basis, moment to moment basis. And as those frequencies, those energies are bombarding our bodies, we are allowing those frequencies to come in, albeit unconsciously, but you are choosing the feelings that you have. Nobody's telling you to choose how you're supposed to feel. You are actually choosing it. So if there is fear going on outside of me, I can attach myself to that fear, or I can say, I don't want any part of that fear. I can still be in what's the fear around me, but I can walk through it in a very balanced state. Easy? No, not easy at all. But the point is I do have a choice. Do I wish to have a choice of an emotion that's a fear, or do I wish to have a choice of an emotion that is a higher frequency, a sense of balance, possibly humility, possibly forgiveness, possibly compassion, any number of emotions that I can feel inside myself and then project out. Now, lastly, how do we do that? I can go into a deep sense of understanding of all that, but all I'm going to say to you right now is that we can do that by either choosing to work from our head, our mind, or come from our heart. A simple choice of either coming from our head, our mind, or coming from our heart. We can feel the difference. Coming from the heart is intuitive. It's instantaneous, spontaneous. Coming from the mind, a story, a judgment, something has to happen. When I use my mind, when I judge something, then the story takes off. First, I judge it as being wrong or right, and then there's a story behind that that keeps it going and festering and getting larger, and there comes the attachment. When I allow myself to come from my heart, it is specifically a moment-to-moment type situation where I am just with what is there, without judgment. Without judgment, and this is very difficult. It's so easy to judge what's going on. For many of you, I'm suggesting to you that if I'm out there and I don't have a mask on and you start judging me, you've just gone into your mind and placed a frequency towards me that's a low frequency. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. As soon as you choose that it has to be right or wrong, now you've just drowned yourself in a very, very low frequency. When I can be open to situations and allow people to make their own choices, I don't need to be right. I could be right, but I don't need to be right. When I'm open to what's going on around me, that allows me to stay in a neutralized place, you might say, a place of openness, which I can be with people then. As soon as I judge somebody, I can't be with them. I've already placed a limitation on them. And unbeknownst to you, you've placed a limitation on yourself. This is very difficult, especially in the times that we have around us. We must all come together more. We must be open to each other more. We must be open to our own opinions, understandings, feelings, sensations. The more we are open to these things without judgment, the more we can begin to come from our hearts. And we can act together as we grow in this, as we walk through whatever this is that we're going to be walking through, because none of us know what this is right now. I always call it there's a shift in consciousness happening right now. A shift to allow myself to deepen my own sense of my heart so I can be with people. Am I being with people or am I judging people? Very simple questions to ask yourself. Am I being with the situation, not judging it, or am I judging the situation? This is all up to you. The judgment causes stress. The judgment causes fear. Being with people and meeting them where they're at, there is no judgment. There is no fear. I can just be in the moment, which means I'm in a very, very calm, balanced, neutralized state, which I now can come from my heart with clarity and understanding. Soon as judgment enters the picture, that's all gone. It leaves. Because either I am right or they are wrong. There is some kind of, adversarial look at what's going on. It's all over YouTube. It's all over the internet. We're looking at all kinds of situations where we're being told all kinds of different theories, a lot of confusion, a lot of chaos. We don't know what's going on. We don't know who to believe anymore. Guess what? You do have somewhere to go that you can believe, and that's in your heart. You can allow your intuitive feeling, which is an instantaneous feeling that comes up immediately, comes into your heart, and you know what's in front of you. You know the feeling, not the thinking. You got to get out of the head. You got to go into the feeling. Can I feel what's happening in this moment? Can it tell me through my heart, what am I being presented with? Can I be with that instead of judge that? There are many ways we can do that. I'm calling this series Healing Through the Heart. We're talking about emotions today. There'll be more discussions on emotions for sure. I know many of you have lots of questions. I ask you to send me whatever questions you might have to my email site, which is tomschnitzius, TOMSCHNITZIUS @comcast.net. I'm happy to answer anything you wish. You can also get a hold of me through YouTube, I believe. We're going to be putting these on YouTube as well. But I just throw out there the email address, as it's a good way to get things rolling. And I look forward to whatever comments you might have. I thank you for listening today. I wish you well. I wish all of you well through the heart. Use your heart to guide you as best as you can. We can't do it every second of the day. Not going to happen. But we can do it more than we don't. And the more I can allow myself to come from my heart, the more neutralized in a harmonic state I can be, which then the clarity is there. I can meet people where they're at. I don't judge them. I am just with them. And this is where we really, really, I believe, have to go if we're going to get through all this, is to be with each other. Not start throwing all kinds of different theories and so on and so forth and judgments and that against each other, but to truly, truly meet each other where we're at and to be with each other. So I wish you well. My heart to your heart. Namaste. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.